What do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to become when you grow big? I don't know, a lawyer, a doctor, a school teacher. Now let's think about, what are we when we grow up? Who can I be? What can I be? In this episode, we're going to talk about how that question is so irrelevant, because we change. Everybody changes. And I found myself last week thinking that I wanted to be a school teacher. I found myself in last episode thinking that I wanted to be some kind of famous reporter. And the truth is, we can be whatever we want to be. So let's use our imagination. Let's break out of those dull, mundane role types, those jobs that we never wanted to do, but we need to. Or do we? Welcome to the Paradise Paradox. My name is Aaron Battle. In this episode, we talk about how we are the media, and how even though Kurt and I have been running this podcast for a bit over a year and a half, it's time to step it up. It's time to start covering a little more weighted topics. Not that we already haven't, but it's time to, I feel like, give more to everyone that's following this podcast, everyone that's interested in the insane, crazy lives of Kurt and Aaron. So if you're interested in checking out the media episode, that's episode 34. So you can go to www.theparadiseparadox.com/34 and check out how we are the media, and how it's time that a lot more of us need to step it up and start creating valuable content, whether it's writing articles or producing the podcast or taking more photos while you're on holidays. It's your job to show the world the world. Cheers to all those that are supporting the Paradise Paradox. Thank you to all the donations that are coming in. We're saving them up, and the little piggy bank's getting nice and fat. So, we're not too sure what we're going to do with all that, but it all gets reinvested into producing a better The Paradise Paradox. So, really, it's for you guys.
Let's get into it.
Aaron, so you've been doing some research about some other podcasts and about some reporters and things like that. What have you learned?
Well, I'll start with the reason why I started researching, because I like what we do, and it's been a whole lot of fun, but I kind of feel like our content and then the episodes. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening in the world right now, and it'd be cool to start covering some more up to date, like more. For example, the Orlando shootings and the attacks that happened in Paris not long ago. There's just so much going on, and I didn't notice until I've been living here with family, but they've got a TV on all the time, and the crap that comes through this television is disgusting, because I mean, there's no questioning, there's no chance for people to question what is going on. They present it like this is what happened, and sometimes what they say is contradictory, and everyone's too busy to even process that. That there may be a higher agenda behind the way television's being delivered.
Yeah, I'm sure there is sometimes. Yeah, it always makes me think of, like, in 1984. So in 1984, the main character is employed by the government, and he goes through and he edits pictures and changes past articles. So basically, he rewrites history whenever he sits down to work. And it's kind of what it's like when you watch the TV. Like one day they'll present the story in one way and say these are the facts. The next day the facts have changed, or they've got new information, but they never tell you, we apologize, that was an early report, so we had the wrong information. They just go with it confidently as if it's always been like that. And people, to some extent, if they're not really tuned in and focusing and analysing it, then they'll just say, oh, yeah, that's how it is.
Well,
that's how it's always
been.
That
ability to critically think is not something that's really encouraged in school.
Of course not.
So, I mean, that's kind of the base. Anyway, so I've been looking at other podcasts and other alternative media outlets, and, I really appreciate the work they're doing. And I think the fact that we're developing a following now, it'd be nice to to step it up a little bit and get on the scene faster. So I mean, and I'm not a reporter. I was never interested in journalism. My knowledge of the area is minimal, and out of nowhere it just occurred to me. Well, let's have a look at who the best reporters were. Or most interesting reporters, because I mean I don't know much about reporting, so this is kind of entertaining as well for me. So I came across Hunter S. Thompson, and actually my brother Benjamin, he introduced me to him when he came over to visit me months ago, and I didn't look into it. I was kind of like, oh, okay, this is interesting. I know there's a couple movies about him and all that. But yesterday it just came up on my feed in YouTube, a documentary about him. So, as I'm working away, I'm listening to this documentary on the sideline. And that guy, I mean, he was out of control, but he did deliver something interesting. I mean, the commentary about him, I found interesting, because a lot of people say that his reporting style or his information that he delivered was the most accurate or correct, yet the least factual.
Yeah, I suspect that's probably something that he's said about himself to begin with. But
yeah,
that's what they say. Yes.
So I thought, with that's silly. I mean, how can you produce, or how can you be a reporter and be zero facts, yet your stories are interesting, entertaining, and they're very accurate. I mean, this is back end of 60s.
Well, they reveal
70s.
Some underlying truth. That's what they say. Like the idea is that sometimes fiction can speak to somebody much more deeply and have much more truth than just an article which accurately reports the fact.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what I took away from learning about his life. I don't understand what I learnt. I mean, okay, what I think I'm going to take away is that you can cover things and enjoy yourself while doing it. But I mean, apparently he's like a hero. So I mean, how did that happen?
Well, he did a lot of drugs and wrote some crazy stories and became a sort of folk legend.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know. So that's kind of the first reporter that I came across that I thought I can take something away from.
Yep.
But I think I need to look into journalism techniques and what reporters do, and it is kind of silly because I'm still going through that phase of what I want to be when I grow up. I think that's pretty a common thing amongst our generation of 30-year-olds. But last week it was like I want to be a primary school teacher. Maybe when I go home, and then these last couple of days, it's like, well, what am I thinking? I'm already part of a movement. There's a huge change coming over the whole planet, economically, financially, politically, pretty much in every aspect of our life. And we have set up this podcast to talk about these ideas. I should take advantage of it and start putting more energy into covering stories and topics that are going to assist other people break away from their connection to this mass media.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I think that's kind of what we're trying to do here. At least what it's evolved into. Yeah.
It is an evolution. Because I look back at those two guys that started the first episode, and I don't even know who they are.
Yeah, probably because you were so uncomfortable in front of the camera, and we're like, what's going on?
I think that's normal, isn't it? It's I know you had a bit of experience with producing video, audio content, but I came completely out of nowhere, and now I look back and I think, even considering where we are now, what I've taken away from doing the podcast, which actually came from advice from Duncan Trussell and his Family Hour podcast, is that everybody should do a podcast, invite their friends around and talk about what's important to them. And so what we just said, screw it, let's shoot.
Yep.
And we started the podcast.
Well, I do think it's so important to produce some kind of media. So I remember some article I read years ago, and it was talking about how, so say in 1900, you didn't have a TV or a VCR or anything like that. And the family would come around and you had the family piano, or someone had a guitar or something, and you start playing a song and everybody joins in and everybody can sing. Everybody's producing and the entertainment comes from within. Whereas then, came this era of more mass media, television especially, where you could access this media at any time, and that became the primary source of entertainment. Instead of having to generate something, you could just vegetate and absorb something, which is very, very dangerous for the collective psyche. And then now it's changing again. It's going back to how it was in some sense, because now we can all we can all make mashups, or we can all download videos and turn it into a meme or something like that. Go on Simpsons shit posting and make something ridiculous to entertain ourselves, or produce videos or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to actually do that and exercise, use the great opportunity that's being presented to you, and become a better communicator while you're at it, because I think that's going to be something that really advances the human race, because the better communicators we are, the more we can connect with each other, the more we can relate to each other, and I expect that the more peaceful Earth will be, and the more we can achieve.
Man, you've packed in so many topics into that. I'm going to stick with it's an evolution. I think we are going back to more of a natural state. I think it's important that people do connect to each other rather than sit next to each other and tune into something external, which pushes you further into your own head, and then you don't even realize that maybe your own family, there's so many different ideas on the same thing just because nobody talks about it. And then it's like the personal evolution as well. I've got no problem jumping on and on the fly, just having a chat to a friend, which I can share with the whole world. I mean, that's a good superpower. And I mean, just yesterday I was thinking I'm going to be at my sister's wedding pretty soon, and I might have to do a speech or something. And it's like, if it wasn't, this podcast has really helped me, develop an ability of I couldn't care less. So that's kind of a freedom to express yourself in perhaps a large group of in front of a large group of people, or public speaking, or just your own personal self-confidence has greatly improved with the podcast. How are we going? You still there?
Yeah, I'm here now.
Oh, cool. Okay. All right. I guess you have to watch the episode to tune into what I just said.
Great. I'm sure it was fantastic.
just a little bit about personal development.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, I don't know where to go from there because I didn't hear your rant. So.
No, well, it was, yeah, well, this is encouragement for people to start producing their own thing, because you do change. I mean, we change on a daily basis. Here's a funny idea that I was explaining to a few of my younger cousins yesterday. That I'm living here with one of my cousins, and she has a couple. She has 3 kids, so I like to talk to kids because I find it's interesting, and it's interesting how they absorb ideas. They have such a different way of looking at things. So I'm telling them, we are constantly changing. There's a spiritual nature to ourselves, and it's important that you appreciate not who you are in the mirror, but who you are in what you are. Something like that. So, and then, they're looking at me all confused, like, has Aaron been drinking, or is he talking crazy, or what's he been doing on the rooftop again? Something like this.
Inhaling tar.
I don't know what's up there. I mean, it's Mexico City, so you can get pretty high just breathing the air. All brain dead. So I'm saying, look, how old are you girls? And they're like 15, 16. And I said, well, you're very different to who you were when you were 5 years old, and you're very different to who you're going to be when you're 30 years old. These 3 people now are 3 completely different people. And if they were sitting next to each other, they might not even recognize that they're the same person, just in different time. Yep. And then they're thinking like, well, I could see they're thinking, because they weren't saying anything and they're looking very confused. And then I thought, okay, so what happens when you can, when you know yourself that well that you can appreciate changes within weeks or months, or you can feel yourself developing on a daily basis? Then I can say the person that I am tomorrow is not the person that I am right now, and the person I was yesterday is very different to who I am right now. And then I started throwing out a few examples, and even in just me talking about this, I realized that I've changed a whole lot. And I think we both have.
Yep.
I mean, just looking at the 2 kids that started the podcast a year and a half ago or so. I mean, they were 2 young boys, and now I'm looking at 2 men. Well, we have facial hair, so that wasn't there before.
Okay. That's all it takes.
Well, I mean, this is part of looking at yourself and not recognizing yourself. It's like, we look different, so how big is that gap?
Yep.
Not that big in this case, but over 5, 10, 15 years it could be. But I realized that I changed a lot, because they're asking me like, what do you mean? And they're doing these ones like, I hear what you're saying, but what do you mean? And I thought, well, okay, here's a couple of examples. And this is pretty good one, because I don't know if many people go through this. I've always considered myself to be a dog person. I think we have this, you're a dog person, you're a cat person. Like you want one or the other, or a little more than the other.
Yeah.
A week ago, I think I became a cat person. And this is something that I've never thought about, and this is something I've never worried about or considered. But it's a pretty big change, because Aaron dog person and Aaron cat person individually wouldn't understand why they'd want to change.
Okay, so why did you change?
I don't know. I got no idea.
But I'm guessing you've had more exposure to cats.
Well, I as a kid, I never really had any pets other than I think we had a bird at one stage.
Who is taking care of Wally, by the way?
Right now, he's with my mother-in-law.
Right.
And apparently he's very happy and he's starting to talk. This is what I heard.
Okay, so he's coming out of his shell.
Yeah, because he didn't like me at all, and I always considered myself to be a dog person because before I left Australia, my sister had a dog, and I became quite fond of Poppy. And then I thought, this is cool. I've always wanted to have a pug, and then I got a pug, and he had some kind of jealousy issue with me and destroyed everything I gave him, and then gave me these evil looks like, you shouldn't be in my house. I'm like, Wally, you're 0.5 a foot tall, you're a dog. Don't be telling me who can't be in your house. Anyway, we didn't get along very well. So
did they understand?
Yeah. Towards the end, they thought, I think we've really made some progress.
Okay.
Because I just enjoyed seeing people go through an active thought process. And then so I had a problem with the last dog we had. He didn't like me, and now I'm in this house where there's two cats, and I think they're wonderful. I absolutely love these cats in the house now. One's only a kitten. One's been around for many years. So I've never really had exposure to cats before, and then I could see the different behavioral patterns of a dog versus a cat, and I thought, you know what? I'm not a dog person at all. I'm a cat person. And then this other thought just occurred to me. He's like, wait a minute. Are you telling me there's more than one type of cat? Like, I've had this idea and I never thought about it.
You mean, you don't mean breeds, you mean like personality types.
Well, kind of both. Because it's not, I always feel embarrassed if I was to say I didn't realize the different breeds of cats, because obviously you have, black ones and yellow ones, but it was more than that.
Okay.
It's like the thought never evolved into, there's like so many different breeds of cats and their behavior, they're like little characters. Mm-hmm. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
So, hey, I'm a cat person. So I understand we got a little off topic, but the interesting part about all this is I realized that perhaps I should start questioning other aspects of myself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important for everybody, because I started thinking, well, who was I when I was in Australia? And then you define yourself by questions like, I don't know, maybe a lot of people don't, but at least in my family and my surroundings, it was like, are you a Ford man or are you a Holden man?
I can't believe people even make that distinction. Like, do you support this multinational corporation? Does your soul resonate with this multinational corporation, or does it resonate with that multinational corporation?
The joke is, every year these two cars look more and more similar. The majority of the other ones, other than the Commodore and the Falcon, the majority of other cars are designed in Europe and produced in, I don't know, Korea or somewhere. There's no cars produced in Australia anymore. Yet, we still have this. I'm a Ford Motor man, and I'm a Holden guy. Anyway, so that came to mind because I've always been a Holden guy, and since I've been in Mexico, it's like, well, there's no Holdens here, so I guess that makes me a Ford man now. So that's another change.
But you could be anything. So General Motors has about 10 brands. just to begin with. Ford's just one of
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just a funny thought that we do try and define ourselves by, do we like this or this? And I realize, because I've been hanging out with some older people as well, like Joanna's family. I've been hanging out with her grandma quite a bit, and she's almost 85 years old, and I realize that she's not really making any new choices anymore. It's like, this is this is who I am. I'm this, I'm that, and I'm here, and I'm not going to. Well, there's no thought. It's like, you know what? I don't like that. I might not have tried it for 20 years, but I don't like that. And it's like, well, if you haven't tried it for 20 years, how do you know? You can't argue with old people. you just don't win. You can't. And then I thought, wait a minute. So there's something here. When you stop making decisions for yourself, and you drink too much Coca-Cola, that is, and you watch too much television.
Yeah.
You start putting yourself into these boxes, like, I'm the blue guy or I'm the red guy, and then you just check out. You just check out of life because you're not making decisions anymore. You just autopilot. You identify with your ego choices, and then you create this character that's not you. And that's what I think. Is happening to a lot of people, and it's scary because there's this reaction nature that comes out of that, and you realize, when you realize you're talking to somebody but you're not talking to them, you're talking to their decisions of decades ago, it's kind of scary because if you realize what's going on, you just stop talking. You're like, yeah, there's no discussion here. I'm getting a quick reaction of 20 years ago. Like, we're not even in time anymore.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think about that. I remember there's this part in Dick Feynman's book. I think it's from Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman, and he talks about when he was like 15 or something, and he was in a restaurant, and he's like, which dessert shall I order? And he decided on a banana split or a flan, whatever it was. And he thought, I really like this. I think I'll just eat this dessert for the rest of my life. And he says, well, I guess that was one less decision I had to make. Which on one hand, he was trying to conserve brain power, I guess, because he didn't have to think about that ever again. But on the other hand, he made this fixed decision. So in a way, you could say he'd begun to die. Tim Ferriss talks about this, how, say, when you wake up in the morning, it's good to have a routine for breakfast, so that way you don't have to waste your willpower deciding what you're going to have for breakfast. Which there's some controversy whether that idea of depleting amount of willpower is actually accurate or not. But I guess it saves time in any case, because you can get more efficient at making this thing for breakfast. But sometimes I find myself sitting in a restaurant, and it's a restaurant I've been to scores of times, and I review the entire menu, and I consider every option, and then I end up ordering the same thing I always order. And I'm like,
Yeah. I think that happens there to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, just about like efficiency and hacking your life. Yeah, I think like routine's good. I know that there was an article I read a while back. Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg. These kind of high performance CEO types. They have their own casual uniform. So it's like, it's what day is it today? This is what I wear. There's no thought. And I think for a while that's kind of good. I mean, if you're living in a city and you're working long hours and you need to move and traveling and commuting from home to work, then you do kind of want to minimize the time that you're spending deciding, am I what am I going to eat for breakfast? But you do kind of you are kind of like you said, dying. You're kind of giving your life away a little bit. And time speeds up so much faster. Yeah.
It's like when my parents are retired now, and And yeah, my dad said to me, yeah, well, it just seems like days and weeks just breeze by, and I guess that's what happens. And I think that's, to some extent, that might be a risk, because if you get into that routine and let your life just breeze by, then it is just going to breeze by. If you don't make an effort to do new things and try new things, and I think that's always a constant risk for all of us. Maybe not in terms of what you make yourself for breakfast or something, but in terms of what you do with your days, what goals you have, your ambitions. I don't think if we really want to make a change in this world, we can't really afford to just leave those things to chance, or not entirely to chance, at least.
Yeah, exactly, because we started out saying that people just absorb television and they're not critically thinking. I mean, they're not questioning, they're not making, that's part of not making decisions. And yeah, we lose the capacity to live our life. I mean, in short, yeah, that's, we're basically all, putting our life on the hook and saying, yeah, just going to hang out here until I'm dead.
Fuck that.
Well, I kind of want a little bit of that, a little bit right now. I mean, I've been trapped in Mexico for too long with crappy, sucky internet. I just want to go home.
Where is home?
Yeah, that's another question, because, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty comfortable here. I know when I go back to Australia, I'm not going to recognize my friends, my mum and dad. I mean, everyone's changed. It's only been a couple of years, but I'm still questioning who I am. So, how am I going to reflect on other people and expect to know who they are? It's like there's no chance. So,
yeah.
I guess that means I'm living to the extreme, because I've got no foundation to make decisions on. Everything's just on the. I don't know. I don't know how to even explain that. Everything's so new.
Well, I kind of wonder if I take a trip back to Australia. It's not maybe not so much in the regional towns, but like in Sydney or Melbourne, am I going to look around and say, holy shit, it's so much more of a police state and everything is more controlled? Because I think that is the tendency, and people don't mention that kind of stuff to me, even though I talk to my Australian friends. But it's like this really slow creep. And even, for example, going back to Maitland, to my hometown, after a year or two, I noticed going to a nightclub in Maitland, they were doing stuff like if you walked in, they had to scan your ID and they had to take your thumbprint. And I was like, what the fuck? What is this Big Brother bullshit going on here? It's very, very strange. And apparently that's their measures to reduce violence. And I believe it's a regulatory thing. It's not something that the club decided to do on their own. And yeah, that's the kind of bizarre change that can happen sometimes if you don't look around.
I think that's exactly what's going to happen. If we were to go home, I mean, I haven't had that experience, but when I was a security guard at the World Bar in Sydney, it was, I developed. I mean, I've got a lot of friends that are still in that scene. But and they post stuff relating to the Sydney nightlife and the whole industry, and yeah, it was a news article that popped up. They posted some TV channel was covering the new strategy to minimize violence, right. And it was like automatic. Yeah, they get your license and they put it through this machine, and the machine flashes red or green. Based on incidences that you've been involved in, or whether you've been banned from other venues, and all the venues are all linked up. I mean, this is in King's Cross, and that's kind of the poster boy for we're going to crack down on nightlife, and in turn they completely destroyed the Sydney nightlife industry, which I mean it's pretty sad, because I know it put a lot of friends out of business. A lot of bar staff not going to get their hours anymore, and security. Well, they're always trying to cut back. And the funny thing was, for those that didn't follow the story or are not tuned into it, the area that was exempt from the changes of the nightlife was all on Darling Harbour, where they've got the casinos.
Yeah, of course.
And the main casino, which is completely exempt from no shots after midnight, no lockout hours, all that kind of stuff. And of course, the violence and the crime and the incidents has just skyrocketed down the road, or the next hub of clubs. So I mean, it's like these strategies just for somebody to say, I'm doing something. Classic, middle management stuff. Trying to just approve themselves of their own work, just to make sure they're busy enough not to lose their job. That's pretty much government in general.
Yeah, it is.
Sí. Gracias.
Yeah.
No, but at least I feel like generally most people are starting to question things, and people. I hear this term people are waking up. But I don't like it. I don't like that idea. I think it's an easy way of saying it, but I think it's kind of derogatory to people that are comfortable living their life and can't be bothered. Mainly older people that they can't be bothered. But you and I know there's a lot of old people. I'm going to get in trouble for saying that. Old people, like 50 and above. That are starting to question stuff, or mainly in the circles that we're involved in, and it's like there's really no age anymore. I personally feel like a kid, so I look at anyone that's above that 50 line as being older, but I mean we're going to be there soon enough, and hopefully I still feel like a kid.
Yeah, in the right ways.
Well, yeah. I put my hat backwards every now and then.
All right. Is that what keeps your mind open? It allows the sun to beam off your forehead.
Get the third eye. Really tuning into those photons. I just think it's good to change your routine up. All the time. Or if you feel like. It's simple as this is the way I walk home. I might go this way today. You never know what's going to happen, and it's good to start actively putting in different things into your life. And you do. I think you do live longer.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll find out. There's probably some studies floating around talking about that, like how open-mindedness can affect longevity. Maybe we can find some. Cool. Do you want to wrap it up, or do you have some final notes?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We final notes is it's really just homework for myself. Yeah. I'm gonna keep going down this journalist path. I'm thinking. I know in Acapulco they have like a couple days of turbo learning how to be a journalist with Luke
Gronowski.
And his I'm trying to think of the names lost me there. The Media University
Change Media University, I think they call it. Yep.
Change Media. Yeah, and I know Tim from the Last American Vagabond. He went. He said it was great. So I'm thinking, I might need to find the time to go to the next one. To learn about how to be a better journalist. Now that I consider myself to be on that path.
Yeah, sounds good.
Never too late for a career change.
What do you mean a career change? We've been doing this for like how long now? About 19 months. We said
that long.
about a year or more ago, we said we're all journalists now. So, time to embrace your position in the community, I think.
It really is, because you don't. Unless you. Unless you feel like you've done formal training for something. I mean, this is pretty more programming. But I feel like unless you've done the course, I feel like I'm a fraud. And I'm starting to realize that that's not the case at all. It's got to do with the value that the person looking back at you receives. And
right.
If they think you're producing good content and they're enjoying your reporting style, it's like why be defined by a university course?
That's kind of. I remember I read this article the other day, and it was talking about how the people are setting up these shaman courses, and you go for you do this crash course for 2 months, and they say, you're a shaman now, here's your certificate. But really, shaman is supposed to be a title bestowed on you by the community. And if people believe that you really are a healer and can really help people, that's when they start to call you a shaman. You can't really call yourself that, especially not for a certificate.
Yeah.
So, certificate doesn't make you a scientist or a lawyer or whatever. Your actions are what count, and how people value them.
Yeah, exactly. It's got to do with value. I mean, you can't just buy your way into something. Actually, the last note, and we'll finish up here. I just want to quickly reflect on the Latin American Bitcoin conference, because we had the opportunity to go as a media group, and that was a brain changing moment for me, because I'm wearing a name tag. It's got my actual name on it, and it says media, and we're there, we're covering, we're talking about it, we're interviewing people, and I thought, am I really a journalist now? Did that just happen? And I feel like you had the same kind of experience. Like, now this just got real.
Well, I also remember, I did have that experience. I also remember I was having a spirited debate with the lawyer from Bitso, the Bitcoin exchange.
Oh, yes.
And for some reason, I started saying, look, you can't trust the media, you can't trust the newspapers, and this and that. And she said, yeah, it says the guy with the media badge on around his neck. And I was like,
checkmate.
Oh. I said, that's right. Don't trust me either.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Good times. Yeah. Good fun.
Great. Okay, good talking to you, Aaron. And
yeah, man.
Yeah, nice to get your insight progressing in your identity as a journalist.
Here I am. I got the mic on. Cheers for checking out another wonderful, amazing episode of the Paradise Paradox. Anyone interested in show notes, this is episode 111, 111. Nothing but synchronicities here. That's show notes, theparadiseparadox.com/111. Stay tuned. Looking forward to producing more of these episodes. If you're enjoying this, please leave a comment. Don't waste any time. Jump down there and subscribe right now. Do something for your sake. You heard the episode. It's time to create action. It's time to start doing things. It's time to change the routine. So subscribe, comment, like, follow, iTunes. Do something. Okay. Peace, love, be well.